In this tutorial, we'll modify the shape of the second floor and we'll add finished surfaces to both floors. Alright, now I'm going to modify the second floor to give myself an opening for the stairway. And what I want to do is cut out this piece of plywood, so I'll select it and press the delete key. And now I'd like to change the length of these 3 floor joists on the end here. So I'm going to select these 3 floor joists and only these 3 floor joists. So this time, using the selection tool, we can start on the right and drag over and get some portion of the 3 floor joists into the bounding box, and that'll select 3 objects. Since these are a copy of all the rest of the floor joists in the design, we want to make them unique so that we can change only these 3. Right click over one of them and say make unique, and we can double click one of them, and if you look closely you can see that I'm only editing these first 3 floor joists. We'll use the push pull tool and we'll push back, and again we'll make sure that we can see the plywood that we're editing, and we will do the push pull tool back to the edge of the plywood. What I'm going to do after this is I'm going to add a floor joist at the end of these. So really what I want to do is I want to push this back another 1.5 inches. So I've already pushed it back to the edge of this length of plywood, and now I'd like to push it back another 1.5 inches. So I click once and I start the push pull tool, and then I do 1.5. That means it's going to get pushed back 1.5 inches from the edge of that 4-foot plywood. Hit the space bar, click outside the bounding box. So this time I need to refill in the floor joists under this piece of plywood. Since I pushed those 3 back, I need to put them back over on this side. And I'll select these 3 floor joists again, and I'm going to do a move copy, so the M tool and the Alt key, or the Option key, click on a corner that is going to give me the ability to move these where I need. So I'll click this end and I'll start moving them, and I want to basically move them along the red axis. And as we're moving them, if we hold down the Shift key, that'll lock this to the red axis. So no matter where I move the cursor, they stay on the red axis. And I basically want to move the cursor out to the end point of this 4x8 sheet of plywood. Now I'll click the mouse, and now I've replicated those. Alright, at this point I want to add a couple of more pieces of joist material. I'm going to draw another rectangle, so I'll go to the R key. I want to draw it in the red and blue direction. So I started up here in this corner, I bring the cursor down along this edge, and I start to move it out, and I try to move it in the red direction. I can type 11.5, 1.5, and I will get my rectangle. So now I'll use the push pull tool and I'll push this back to the other floor joist. And now if I use the space bar to go back to select and triple click this and then do G, the name of the component, extra floor joist. And then of course I'll color it with my OSB color, and I'll have the end cap. Right now what we have is this first and second floors, and we only have subfloor. The thing to do now is to add the finished floor to these 2 levels. So to do the bottom, we'll choose rectangle tool. We'll start at this corner back here, click once, and we'll drag out and come to this corner here. And we want to use the push pull tool, so we select P. And now is when we want to type in the finished floor thickness. For the first floor, I'll do tile. So we'll say that on top of the subfloor, there'll be 7/8 of an inch thick. So I can type in the fraction 7 divided by 8 and hit carriage return, and now we have a 7/8 inch thick floor. Okay, now let's turn this floor into a component. So zoom in just a bit, triple click the surface, type G. We'll call this first floor finished. And then we'll add some color, and since it's a tile floor, we will choose the color palette, go to tile and choose a tile pattern that looks good. We fill that in. Use the space bar to go back to select and click outside, and then we can have a look at our first floor as it has now been finished. And now we need to do the same thing for the second floor. We need to come up with a finished floor. In this case, I'm going to trace the outline of the second floor to get the shape necessary so when we pull it up, it matches the subfloor. So we'll choose the line tool, which is L, and we'll start in this back corner, and we'll just start drawing, and we'll just trace from corner to corner, letting Sketchup find the corner, making sure to stay on the green and the red axis so we know that we're horizontal. Come to here, go to this back corner, and finally we should finish it here, and we get a shape. And so we want to use the push pull tool, and we want to bring this up. Now we need to choose the thickness, and in this case we're going to do hardwood floor, and that'll be 3/4 of an inch thick. So we'll just type 3/4 to get 3/4, and there's our new surface. Zoom in and triple click that so that it selects everything connected to that new surface. Type G for component, and we'll type in finished second floor. When we choose create, now we have the component that is the second floor. We decided it would be hardwood, so we'll go back to the colors, choose wood, wood floor dark, and we'll click on that object, and now we have our wood floor.